in the area that would provide for additional diversity of housing.
Council Lady.
Thank you.
I think you need to actually give us your name and address one more time.
Kathleen Murphy, 231 Orlando. This is the first one I filed, and so they're a little out of order. So again, I'll start at the beginning. So I had a meeting in May, figure out what your zoning is. They all kind of said, wow, we didn't know that was our zoning. And then the house on the corner of Woodlawn and Estes was torn down without a permit. And again, as I mentioned earlier, my father lives a few blocks on South Wilson, and this is a property where he had his yard signs in the 70s and where he delivered papers when he was in high school. So he was devastated that this house was torn down overnight, would not let it go. I pulled the permit. I pulled up the property. I talked to Bill Herbert and John Michael. I said, I don't know how did this happen, and there was no permit on file to demo the house. I asked them to initiate a legal case to find them and that type of thing. So then there was some back and forth about setbacks. I asked Councilman at Large John Cooper, who is in this rezone area, to negotiate a setback because I was having some family issues I needed to attend to. They did not come to an agreement between the developer and the neighborhood. So Bill Herbert made a ruling of 79 feet for the setback. I filed as the applicant, and we challenged that at the BZA based on the contextual setback part of the code that was passed in 2014, shortly before the contextual overlay passed. And so they have similar intent that you average the area and that type of thing. Because that block then had three on it, it changed the setback. Neighbors, I guess, prevailed, and so the 79-foot setback was that permit was deemed invalid. So from that meeting is where I decided to file all these rezones, and now I regret filing 3 at one time. So again, I went to planning staff and I said, what makes sense? And so we outlined, again, the one next to the one that's cutting off on the bottom here, that's South Wilson Boulevard, and that is already zoned single family. And then this is along, the top street is Kempalong, where y'all might know there is an overlay there. And so of these properties, there had been some, we had actually, again, this is one where 2 properties on Crescent asked to be added into this rezone. Unfortunately, there has been some confusion. They were added in on one map, not added in on another map. And so this map, they're not on there, but so we're hoping to get them in on the next time. Again, I'm not experienced with people wanting to get in on down zone, so it was a new activity for me. So of the 19 properties that are in this rezone, I have 13 property owners that have said that they want this, 2 property owners who say they don't want this, and 4 that I have not stalked down and gotten a response out of. And so that is, again, pretty good stats for District 24. Of the survey that I sent out, I had 48 responses on this with a 91.7. I'll round up to 92% approval rating of this. Again, this is the same. I had the meeting at NBA with all 3 of these. So a postcard went out about the meeting at NBA. And then the postcard and the letter went out. There have been signs up. I know that there's an attorney here to question the property at the corner of Woodlawn and Estes, and one of their mentions, they said that they had not been properly noticed. One of the zoning signs is in the that property's yard. So again, signs have been out, at least 3 pieces of mail, community meeting. The neighborhood listserv here is very strong, and so they've pushed out the survey and the meetings and all of that type of thing. And so, and I do have some neighbors that had to leave, unfortunately, but some have stuck around for the end of this rezone. Again, this was neighbor driven, and I am just super excited to have such consistent consensus on wanting to be in and even added in. So I will save the rest of my time.
Okay, so do we have folks here ready to speak in favor? And if so, come line up behind the white sign.
Hi, I'm Susanna Scott Barnes at 700 Crescent Road, and my husband and I have lived in this area for 12 years, and before that, 5 more, just a block away. We bought this property because of the character of the neighborhood, and we'd like to vote for this to be approved in order to maintain the character, the existing character. I'm one of the properties that wanted to be added, so I'm on Crescent Road, and I'm not, I guess, currently in this map, but I've asked Kathleen, and it was my understanding that we were currently included in this. We just feel strongly about it so much that we were willing to give up our economic rights or development rights, even though we could have, benefited from our neighbors having that rezone. The one thing I also wanted to point out about this neighborhood and this stretch of woodlawn is that it has a unique tree canopy that you can drive woodlawn, which is, it's a lot of heavy traffic use, and it is just a green tunnel that I think is especially unique to Nashville, especially in an urban area. So a lot of our neighbors approved and wanted to be here tonight, but I'm sorry they couldn't be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I do not envy your job. I'm Callie Corey. I live at 3942 Woodlawn, and I would also very much hope that you would approve this. I bought my house 2.5 years ago. It looks like a good place to park construction trucks still, which is what we are doing. We are doing some slight renovations on our house, but part of the reason that we were so happy to live there and to get this place is it is one of the few remaining neighborhoods in Nashville that does not seem on the path to being overbuilt. And we very much looked hard for that, and along with the rest of our neighbors, many of whom, of course, wanted to be here tonight but could not, wanted to stand up and say, this is one of the most beautiful neighborhoods. And the character, and as she was talking about, the tree canopy and everything is so unique to Nashville. And one of the things that, I'm the executive producer of the show Nashville also, that we go out of our way to show Nashville in all its beauty. And this is a prime example of that. I was very saddened to see the house torn down on the corner, and even more saddened when I found out that it had been done without even pulling the permit. That particular corner is extremely heavily trafficked due to MBA traffic and Innsworth school traffic, and adding more units in that area particularly cause a backup. But sometimes it takes me, 10 minutes to get from my office out in North Nashville to my street, and then another 15 minutes to get through that stop sign. So I think adding any more traffic there would be a big mistake. But also just the character of the whole neighborhood and the people that live there. I think we all are almost unanimous in wanting to downzone, forego whatever economic privilege might come with being able to split up your lot and build as much as you want. We, in fact, bought the lot next door just so that that couldn't happen. So we split it with our neighbor to try to help preserve the integrity of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else speaking in favor? And anyone speaking in opposition?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Sean Henry, 315 Dedrick Street. I think this is going to be a little easier than the other two that you just considered. If we could go back to the zoning map, Ms. Milligan, that would be helpful. I represent the property owner at the corner there of Estes and Woodlawn. You see that there's 2 duplex structures depicted there on the corner. When my client saw the staff report and saw that the staff was recommending the exclusion of the striped or hatched lot there in the middle of the block, because there's a duplex there, he asked, well, why aren't they excluding me as well? Because I have a permit to build a duplex. And so I wrote a letter, submitted that to you all on Monday with the permit that they have. And basically what my client's asking is, if you're willing to exclude a duplex lot in the middle of the block, you should also exclude their duplex lot, which is the same size, has a permit for a duplex, it's right next door, it's adjacent, and it's on the corner. So again, if you're inclined to exclude and allow a mid-block opt-out, then we would ask, then allow the adjoining lot to also be opted out as well. If you're concerned from a planning perspective, from a planning issue, that we shouldn't be opting out mid-block, that you only do that on the edges, if we're concerned about the Swiss cheese effect, then this property should not be excluded. So both of them should be part of the down zoning. So either take our lot out or include the lot that the staff recommends opted out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others in opposition?
My name is Jeffrey Bubis. I am here about 3937 Woodlawn Drive. I personally live on Gale Lane, 1404 Gale Lane. I'm here to ask that my family property be allowed to opt out of this down zone, or for you to disprove this down zone. My father built the house at 3937 Woodlawn and moved us in on the night of the blizzard in the early 50s, over 60 years ago, long before most of the current owners came to Woodlawn. The house was built 20 to 30 years after all the stately homes nearby. As a suburban brick ranch, it is as much an anomaly to Woodlawn as Councilman Cooper's mansion. I won't go into details, but I have to understand that this downzoning will cost my family at least $100,000 and as much as $200,000. The house has not been updated since the 70s. The ranch style with its low ceilings is very problematic. With current zoning allowing for 2 units, it is clearly a tear down. It is possible to put 2 units on this property without detracting from the neighborhood. The home 3 doors down on New Woodlawn that is being exempted for already being a duplex looks like a single-family home. It can be done. Similar examples are all over the neighborhood. It is possible to put 2 units on our 6/8 acre. She talks about the neighborhood. If I could, there are 18 properties within 1,000 feet of our property that have 2 units, 4 on Woodlawn, and that's not counting the Hanover Square mess between these 2 divisions. No single families have been built in this area in over 20 years.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else speaking in opposition? Okay, Council Lady.
All right, so I will address a little bit of why I did not want to opt out some of these properties. First, we'll address the property that started all this, the corner of Woodlawn and Estes. They recently got permitted with a duplex that's basically 2 boxes at the setbacks. And again, it's not an existing structure. When I spoke to Mr. Henry the other night, he had been talking with Councilman at Large Cooper, and the other neighbors were under the impression that they were going to seek a setback variance for a single-family home here. And he told me that he would have a site plan for me on this coming Friday, tomorrow, of the single-family home there. So my thought process is if you're building a single-family home, as you have led the neighbors to believe, and we have talked about what type of variance setback might we be able to support at the BZA, I'd prefer an SP, then why are you opting, then why do you want to be opted out? Clearly, it seems to be another tactic to kind of get the neighbors to agree to something that doesn't fit into their neighborhood almost. Again, this property was torn down without a permit. What guarantee do we have if we opt them out that they're going to hold true to their offer and that their agreement and their good intention that this is going to be a single-family home? And I think that my job as the council member is to kind of protect those neighborhood interests and protect in this kind of situation, my client is the neighbors, right? And so if they're telling us on one hand they're going to do a single-family home there, then on the other hand, why are you asking to be opted out? Again, with the other home, the Bubba's home, it made more sense, of course, when the Crescent properties were in, because the Crescent property, the two properties there, it's an empty lot, and then another one below there that would have been opted in, again, making this a contiguous zoning. But since they, for whatever reason, were subsequently taken back out, that does still make it contiguous along West Woodlawn. Something that we talked about at the BZA was the consistency of the rhythm and the spacing and the established neighborhood pattern here. I will quote Councilman at Large Bob Mendez, who described this and the setbacks and the rhythm here as homes that are not just spaced out evenly, but they are spaced out far and very far from each other and from the street. And so I think that the established development pattern here is clearly these single-family homes that are spaced out in a way that allow for older trees and more green space. And so that is where the thinking is on that. So again, the McMillan Charles home, that is the duplex being opted out. It's an existing duplex and has been for a long time. And so I would just ask that y'all approve this with the staff recommendation of taking out the existing structured duplex, similar to the other one we discussed. Do you have any questions?
Probably.
I'll stick around.
I'm sure we'll find you. Okay. I declare the public hearing closed, and, oh goodness, Council Lady Allen, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. My understanding of the way RS works is that existing duplexes have the ability to continue to be duplexes or to be replaced by duplexes. So why would we need to opt them out because they're an existing duplex?
Well, they do become a legally non-conforming. If they're legal and constructed, then they would become a legally non-conforming use under the RS, which does allow them certain protections. Sometimes people can run into issues with financing or mortgages or something like that. I mean, it can just make it a little bit more difficult. And so in this case, the council lady, that one was built already, asked us to remove it. We agreed. We generally try to look at existing built, constructed, legal, permitted duplexes when we review these types of zonings.
And you typically take them out?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, long ago, my neighborhood did a very large RS downzoning, but the reason we did it was because we had lots of duplexes, and we were fine with them staying as duplexes. We just thought the balance was good, and that's where it needed to stay. So there are hundreds probably of legally non-conforming duplexes in our RS downzoning. And to your knowledge, I guess you don't hear about those with the zoning thing. Is that an ongoing problem that we hear about?
I would say that our thought process on this, though, has evolved over the years, and there were times when we leaned more towards disapproving rezonings without taking any out, or approving wholesale RS rezoning. So it kind of depends on how we're analyzing at the time. And right now, we're trying to work with the council members to look at existing duplexes, and in some cases, potential locations for future duplexes, depending on the availability of housing choice around the area being rezoned. And in this case, since there was a larger area with different housing choices, we felt that this was appropriate, but for the one existing duplex.
Right. And I understand, when you take out a corner that you think would be a good location for a duplex, once you do that, it can't be a duplex because you can't become one, but you can continue to be one. I would feel more comfortable with Mr. Henry's request to keep both of those properties in if one is already permitted and the other one already exists as a duplex. To me, the zoning is more consistent and less Swiss cheesy if you don't, make that front tooth missing there. That's my thought on that. And then can somebody tell me where Mr. Bubas's property is? Is it also in the middle of things? Right there, okay. So it was coming around the corner. And again, I understand people's concerns and desires to do stuff. Just to me, when you do this, it's a neighborhood saying, this is a covenant we're making all with each other because we value what's on the street. I think it's hard when you start punching holes in it.
Commissioner Diaz? Okay. Commissioner Blackshear?
I just have a question for Attorney Henry. Counsel Lady Murphy indicated that your client had originally, I guess, said to the neighbors that perhaps a single-family residence was going to be there. And I mean, I guess by asking to be opted out, your client is saying that they are probably not going to be building a single-family residence?
No, we still intend to have that conversation, but I want to bore you. It's too late in the night to tell you about all the gory details that we've been through, but there was an original permit for a duplex that was challenged. The BZA overturned the issuance of the permit, reduced the setback. This bill got filed to downzone the property. My client went ahead and applied for and received a permit to build to protect, their rights. But they're still in contemplation about building a single family. But at this point, we don't, they don't know which way to turn. So. And one final comment. My concern about the staff's position here in excluding a duplex where they find one, I mean, that does contradict the history of how this has been going. Not that it shouldn't change, but if this commission is going to adopt a policy that mass rezonings are going to exclude duplex properties, that's an important planning consideration. So please think about that.
Commissioner Clifton? What? Goodness. Chairman McLean?
Mr. Henry, there is a permit issued, so you could start construction tomorrow, is that correct?
That's correct, and we're delaying that for now.
So if you start that, you're going to be non-conforming.
After there's a vote on this bill, depending on the vote, perhaps.
You still have the right to build.
Correct, yes, sir. But the loss of those rights, as we saw at the BZA last month, they had a permit to build, and that was retracted.
But I'm still confused if we're opting out the one next door because we don't want it to be non-conforming, but yet we're going to approve when it is non-conforming.
Well, let me be clear that the bill as presented doesn't have that lot being taken out. That was a recommendation by staff that lot be removed because it is a duplex currently.
Oh, excuse me. If we approve this, then the checkered lot stays in. Is that correct?
Well, they've substituted.
We presented it as a disapproval, but an approval with that lot being removed.
No, you presented as approval with substitute.
Okay.
We weren't given another option. It was approved with substitute.
I'm hearing two different things. So
Well, actually, you hear the same thing, just said a different way. And that is that we recommended that lot be taken out for this commission to approve it.
Okay.
Anything on it?
Nope, I'm going to turn my...
Commissioner Hagendeer?
I'm tired and hungry. Well, it says staff recommends approval with a substitute to remove, but we don't have to go with that. We could
Leave it.
leave it in and just to recommend approval of the ordinance as it was submitted and go. That's all I'm saying.
There's an option.
That is, I would agree with that that does seem to make sense that we either leave the two in or we take them both out. I don't see how it makes sense to exclude the one in the middle, since essentially you could end up with the same thing there tomorrow. So I do think we should be looking at it as all together or taking the two out. You two, any comments down there now?
I think that makes sense. I think I agree with that for the same fact that if they are taken out, then something can be built the same way. And it just keeps it consistent to have them all in there. However, I'm not really exactly sure what the financing and all that stuff entails. So I don't know, I just feel like I'd hate for it to, like, I know there's a reason why staff recommended the substitute ordinance, but just for the sake of consistency, I think I would agree. And I would make a motion to approve the ordinance as submitted. Is that right?
Any other discussion?
Yeah, the ordinance is submitted,
Without removing this one.
okay, so all 19 are in.
Yes.
Okay, I second it.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Now, where are we? None of our committee people are here. So, who's on the Parks Committee? Oh, you're the Parks Committee. It's not Greg anymore. I forget.
I just wanted to mention that there's going to be the second speaker series presentation October 6th for the Parks Committee. And everybody's invited to attend. It'll be at the October 6th at lunchtime at the first. So everybody's, invited to attend. It's a public meeting, so I think we all got the invitation, just reminding you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Craig would send that, right? At least once or twice? Yeah. Good.
Okay. Council Lady Allen, anything you want to update us with?
I can't think of anything at this hour, but I'll entertain questions if there are any.
All right. Director Sloan?
Yes, I had a whole laundry list of things I wanted to talk about, but somehow that's all waning. I do want to introduce because we've got a couple of new employees. One of our new employees is still here with us, George Rooker. That's probably the first time he's been able to be called a new employee in like a couple of decades. But we're excited. We're excited to have him. He's really helping us out with CIB and a lot of other projects that we're working on. And we also hired on, and I know I'm going to slaughter her name. You know what? I'm not even going to try. I'm going to let someone else pronounce it.
Alhamdaha.
I'm sorry?
Alhamdaha.
Okay. And that's not, we got her contract, under contract, right? Like the contract we did last meeting? Who was that for again?
Hariono Pravo Renata.
Okay, thank you. So no, other than that, I think everything else can wait.
All right. Well, with that, we're adjourned.
Yeah, use that.